Hi everyone, it's me again. You normally see Shane doing these things, but I thought I'd just do kind of a recap of the stuff that we've done and covered over his first 10 lessons. So starting with just sort of general keyboard geography. So we looked at the white keys and the black keys, obviously, how they're grouped and the letter names, and he's got all of those really well. The thing that was tricky, which we've talked a little bit about in the lessons, was linking the letter name with where it is on the keyboard with where it is on the stave. And it's sort of like a three-prong approach. So we used flashcards to start linking elements of those together. And he's been doing a lot of work on that away from the keyboard, just using the flashcards on the kitchen table and matching up letter names and with where the note is on the stave. And that's helped his reading a lot, so that's been really good. In terms of technique, just his hand position, I think, has improved heaps. He's looking much more relaxed around the keyboard. If you remember when we started, there in that middle C position, there was quite a bit of what we call the ulnar deviation. So I was trying to get him out of that position fairly quickly because I didn't want a whole lot of sort of tension build up around the side of his forearm and wrist. So we were doing a lot of exercises to just move out of position, a lot of work on the black keys, just moving back and forwards, in and out. So he's been doing a little bit of that just from time to time, just in his warm-ups and things. So that's helped. And the scales too, now with passing your thumb underneath and just getting used to those patterns. So there's been a lot of movement out from that initial middle C position down to that low C there. We've gone up as high as D in the right hand, so he's got a 2-octave span of notes that he's playing already, which is really good. In terms of the rhythm, we've got quavers, crotchets, minims, dotted minims, semi-briefs, and just counting with all of those. So counting just sort of like your 1, 2, 3, 4 solid beats through. We've got down to counting in quavers as well, because a lot of his pieces have had quavers in them. And so for some of those, instead of just counting crotchets through, we've had to break it down into sort of more fine granular counting, if you like. And that's been a wee bit tricky, but we've been working with that, and that's proved really, really helpful. Just today I gave him quite a tricky one with the dotted crotchet, so a 1.5 beat note and then a half beat note after that. Which was slightly difficult, but we've got there. So that's sort of week 11, the addition onto that. Some of the things Shane's talked about with me previously have been just when you've got different rhythmic patterns going at the same time, which is of course difficult if you're doing something separate hands and then having to put it together. You've got to be counting really carefully to make sure things are coordinated. But also if like in When the Saints, that was a good example, where you had different interval patterns going in opposite directions. So you might have had something like that, like a mirror pattern, which isn't too bad, but then you might have had something like that, where you've got to be really careful about what direction your interval is going in. To coordinate that hands together. And yes, the other thing which I'll just finally mention is the interval. We're getting more used to reading the intervals or your distance between notes on the stave. And we had a piece to do that, the spot the interval piece. So reading notes on top of each other, so you've got that harmonic element, if you like. So the interval that way, or the interval that way. And we've been gradually, progressively getting out of that 5-finger hand position into a wider span. So he's got things like that, or he's had to shift up an octave, those sorts of things. So those are the elements that we've covered over the first 10 lessons. I've been moving him quite fast. I wanted to, one of my goals was to get him doing that Uptown Girl by Billy Joel by week 10. So we got there. So I've been really pleased, and he's been great. He's been putting in his practice through the weeks. Good solid work. So I'm really pleased, and I'm really proud of him.